go into the results of that effort, but I want you to know up front that that focused enforcement had a big and positive impact. It helped us to reduce the number of fatalities in this sensitive time of year when people are driving more in darker hours. We've also moved personnel to where the problem is more effectively, and that's why the announcement today about the use of precision policing with Vision Zero is so important. We're focusing on the places where we have the greatest danger of crashes, where we have the greatest danger to pedestrians in particular. We're focusing additional resources on those locations and at those times, and we're making sure that there is stepped-up enforcement, stepped-up consequences on the kind of behaviors that put people in danger. So we all know, that here in this building, almost a quarter century ago, CompStat revolutionized policing in this city and was the reason we got safer. We're now applying that same approach to keeping people safe on our streets, and it's already starting to have a very, very positive effect. But I'll end where I began. Vision Zero has just begun. You ain't seen nothing yet. This is just the beginning of something that's going to go much farther. We're going to continue to deepen enforcement for months and years to come to drive down the number of fatalities. And all the good work at the Department of Transportation, changing traffic patterns, redesigning streets, adding more islands for pedestrians to stop at so they're safe, slowing down the traffic signals so that pedestrians have more time to cross the streets. All of these will have a big impact in the years to come. What we've seen after the first 2 years is real progress. There is much, much more to do. And NYPD has been leading the way, and now that the principles of precision policing are being applied systematically to Vision Zero, we believe you're going to see additional progress immediately in the months to come. Let me just say a few words in Spanish before turning to the Commissioner. Los meses más oscuros son los de mayor peligro en nuestras calles. Con Vision Zero, en los últimos 30 días tenemos la mitad de muertes en incidentes de tránsito que en años anteriores. Sin embargo, necesitamos la ayuda de ustedes. Recuerden que sus decisiones importan tanto al caminar como al conducir. With that, I turn to Commissioner O'Neill with my great thanks for the extraordinary efforts the NYPD is taking on Vision Zero.
All right, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. Today, we're here to reinforce what we've long stressed about important decisions everyone has to make when they travel around the city. And now that we're in the midst of the holiday season, there's millions of tourists here, and there's more vehicular and pedestrian traffic than usual. And those decisions that we make as we travel around the city have taken on even greater significance. The mayor spoke about daylight savings time, the program that we started at the end of October. Daylight savings time ended early this month. I joined the mayor and Commissioner Trottenberg in raising awareness about the dangers that come when we turn those clocks back. The sun setting early in the day, coinciding with the afternoon rush hour, adds to the dangers that face motorists, bicyclists, and pedestrians in the fall and winter months. I'm pleased to report in these last few weeks we've seen a great improvement compared to November of 2015. I'm going to give you the numbers for October 27th to November 27th, 2015, as opposed to 2016. We've had a double-digit decrease in fatal collisions. The raw number is 14 this year versus 30 last year. This is a downward trend all of us here want to see carry through next month and into the new year and beyond that. But in order to realize that, we have to acknowledge that December is historically a perilous time of year on our streets. More hours of darkness make it more difficult to see for everyone. So again, we're calling on all New Yorkers to take on an active role in their own safety. I speak about shared responsibility all the time when it comes to crime, and it has to do with traffic also. 2 years ago, Mayor de Blasio signed into law a 25-mile-an-hour citywide speed limit. Every driver has to make sure they adhere to that. It saves lives. And we've said before, NYPD officers are out there enforcing the rules of the road, especially in our most well-traveled and most collision-prone locations. We put more officers out there during that time period. If you commit a violation, you will be pulled over and you will get a summons. Drivers have to take extra care while turning when pedestrians are in the congested crosswalks. Double parkers blocking bike lanes will be summoned. And don't forget that bicyclists are expected to adhere to the same traffic rules as vehicles. Pedestrians have to do their part also. Don't cross in the middle of the block where lighting may not be as bright and drivers aren't expecting to see. Chief Tom Chan will give you some stats of what we've done over the last 30-day period, and I think you'll be impressed. And regardless of your mode of transportation, car, bike, or foot, put your phones down. I was traveling southbound on West Street, I guess about a month ago, and we were traveling with the light, of course, doing the speed limit, and there was a young woman attempting to cross the street. She had her headphones in, looking at her phone. I'm pretty sure there was a newspaper in her hand, too, and she stepped out into the street and somebody pulled her back. So you have to, putting that phone down might possibly save your own life. And lastly, it should go without saying, if you're going to drink, don't get behind the wheel. We're going to increase our sobriety checkpoints all across the city. If you're going to drink, call a cab, get yourself home safely. A little pre-planning this holiday season will go a long way to keeping everybody in New York City safe. So I'm now going to turn it over to Commissioner Trottenberg. Polly?
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner O'Neill. As the mayor mentioned a month ago, we stood in the same room and we talked about the dangers of dusk and how in the evenings in the fall and winter that represents by far and away the most dangerous time of the year on our roadways. And together our agencies took a multi-pronged approach. You've heard from Commissioner O'Neill about all the incredible enforcement that NYPD has been doing with a particular focus on speeding and failure to yield. At DOT, we've been stepping up as well. We ran an ad campaign with ads in radio drive time, and we've introduced some new compelling 15-second TV spots to amplify the enforcement message. And if you were watching political coverage or football on ESPN, you've probably seen some of these ads. Since October 27th, we've also worked with PD and our outreach crews to hand out hundreds of thousands of Vision Zero palm cards to drivers and pedestrians, reminding them again to make safe choices. I also want to emphasize this year we've finished up with a record number of street redesigns, as the mayor mentioned, that help make our roadways safer for pedestrians to cross, give them more time, give them pedestrians islands, and a number of new bike projects, including 18 miles of protected bike lanes. You've heard of some of them: Pulaski Bridge, Queens Boulevard, J Street, Amsterdam Avenue. We've also stepped up and put brighter LED lighting in 1,000 what we consider high-risk intersections around the city. And you've heard the statistics. For the last month, between October 27th and yesterday, New York City experienced a total of 13 fatalities. Now, obviously, we mourn every single one of those fatalities. Those aren't just numbers for us. Those are our friends, our families, coworkers, our fellow New Yorkers. But it's a notable drop from where we were last year, where, as Commissioner O'Neill mentioned, we had 30 fatalities. So we've seen some progress. We're very encouraged, and we're going to keep working hard at everything we do. Thank you.
Thanks, Polly. Tom Chan will give you some of the enforcement numbers. Chief Chan?
Okay. Thank you, Mayor de Blasio. We also like to thank Mayor de Blasio's Vision Zero Task Force has been working closely with us, Commissioner O'Neill and Commissioner Trottenberg, and also our elected officials, Council of Transportation Chair Udanis Rodriguez. The Dust to Darkness Safety Initiative combination Vision Zero, through the education, the engineering, and also the enforcement, has had an effect. Our officers have been deployed throughout the city with targeted enforcement on hazardous violations at collision-prone locations. A somewhat of a precision policing model where we're targeting through this dust to darkness when we have collisions between 1600 hours and 2100 hours, or 4 o'clock in the evening till 21, which is 9 o'clock in the evening. We've asked more officers to concentrate and also do enforcement during those hours when we feel that the pedestrian population are more vulnerable. We've conducted a number of initiatives in the month of October. From October 17th through the 23rd, resulted in 3,915 speeding summonses, an increase of 114% during that period compared to last year. During the month of October also, on the 24th through the 30th, we conducted a cell phone and also texting initiative, which was conducted citywide, resulting in 2,381 cell phone summonses and 1,526 texting summonses, representing an 84% and 179% increase in those particular areas. Following in the month of November, we conducted a pedestrian safety initiative right away. We targeted that violation right away, and from November the 14th through November the 20th, we issued 2,257 summonses were issued for failure to yield to the right-of-way to the pedestrians during that period. That was a 147% increase compared to last year. And that was during that month. That was after we announced this Dust to Darkness initiative. In other areas that we concentrated, we targeted tinted windows. We increased that summons enforcement by 12%. The right-of-way, as I mentioned before, hazardous violations overall by 7%. In other areas that we took a look at, DWI enforcement, we were up 16% compared to last year, and also for 511, which is suspended license, we increased that by 24%. In conjunction with that, we also had, as an education process, we erected 12 different VMS signs, variable message signs, throughout the boroughs and in Manhattan, giving information to our motorists, educating them that one of the leading causes of traffic fatalities for our pedestrians at intersections are vehicles that are turning. In particular, left-turning vehicles are probably more problematic, 3 times as likely to cause an injury, and it's more dangerous for the pedestrian because the vehicles are making turns faster. So the point is that we've been sharing this information. We do have another scheduled initiative in terms of pedestrian safety initiative that's scheduled December the 5th through the 11th. We'll be conducting that initiative and targeting right away for our pedestrians. But throughout the whole city, and our officers are zeroing in on the 3rd platoon because when it gets darker, it is much more difficult for the drivers to see the pedestrians. So we want to make the drivers aware. And again, drivers beware, yield to our pedestrians who are crossing in our streets.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Jess Tisch, Commissioner Tisch is going to talk about Traffic Stat 2.0. Jess?
All right. Of course, you're all familiar with NYPD's CompStat process, which aggregates our weekly crime statistics, culminating in a Thursday meeting where the police commanders gather to discuss crime strategies. Less known is the Traffic Stat process, similar concept mirroring CompStat, but for collisions and Vision Zero. So today, we are making public on our NYPD website the analytic engine that we at the NYPD use to look at our collision data, the tool that drives our Traffic Stat. It's designed to provide unprecedented access to NYPD collision statistics, essentially to give the public the data and the tools that they need to view, map, and analyze NYPD collision numbers so that the residents of this city get a timely sense of where and when collisions are occurring. So on the screen above me is a look at Traffic Stat, which works in very much the same way as public CompStat and will be made available immediately following this press conference. In the left panel, you see the digitized version of this Traffic Stat book, the same book that this department uses to analyze collisions at the weekly Traffic Stat meetings. So how does it work? Well, we can choose to view the citywide Traffic Stat numbers, or we can look by borough, precinct. For purposes of this demonstration, let's hone in on a specific patrol borough. So let's look at Manhattan North, which represents the 19th through the 34th precincts. So the panel on the left side of the screen displays the Traffic Stat numbers for the week ending Sunday, November 27th. That's this Sunday. This panel provides counts for total collisions, collisions with injuries, total number of injuries broken down by occupants, pedestrians, and bicycles, as well as fatalities. If we click, for example, on the week-to-date total collision number of 330, the system will map those 330 collisions to the exact location. You can see that in the middle panel. Now, the panels on the right side of the screen allow us to analyze or break down those 330 collisions. For example, we can look at the 330 collisions by patrol borough, by precinct, by hour, by day of the week, by collision type, and by contributing factor. This is what the mayor is talking about with using precision policing to inform our strategies. If we look at the day of the week, for example, we see our highest volume, this is in Manhattan North last week, of 69 occurred on Wednesday. If we look by collision type, we see the majority were side swipes. And if we look by contributing factor, we see most were caused by driver inattention or distraction. Each number on the Traffic Stat book is clickable, which means that each number can be mapped and analyzed using the various charting tools. So, how can you access this tool? Traffic Stat will be made available at https://trafficstat.nypdonline.org, or as a link on the NYPD's website. It will be available on desktops as well as on your mobile devices. I encourage you to check it out as you're leaving. A few additional things to note. First, timing of disclosures. The website is going to be updated every Tuesday. So essentially, the public will, for the very first time, have access to the week's traffic stat numbers even before they are discussed by police executives at the weekly Friday traffic stat meeting. Second, the data is subject to change as collisions are investigated. Numbers hit the traffic stat book as soon as the collision report is entered into the system. The number of fatalities or injuries, for example, are subject to change, and those changes reflected in subsequent weeks' traffic stat numbers, just as you're used to with the ComStat books. Third, this tool is a close cousin of the unprecedented ComStat tool that the NYPD has been providing to the public since February of this year. As far as we've been able to research, no other police department in the world provides the public an analytic engine like this one for collision mapping and review. We are committed to continuing to enhance this tool over the coming months and years. In fact, this website is powered by the very same technology that the NYPD itself uses to analyze and report on collision data as part of the traffic stat process. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks, Jess. Now I'd like to introduce Udonis Rodriguez. He's a council member, city council member. He's the chair of the Committee on Transportation. Udonis.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Mayor. As the Mayor has said, this is only a beginning of Vision Zero. When we look through Europe and other countries that they started with Vision Zero, it took time for them to see the effect. I'm pretty sure that by the time the Mayor will leave this office in 2021, he will claim that he will be a national leader when it comes to saving life. We cannot forget that New York City, the first cause of death in New York City for children under 13, and we have said over and over in the past, but we have to remind the 8.5 million New Yorkers. It's not poverty, it's not drugs, it's not violence. It's being hit by cars. And as a father of two daughters, 9 and 3, this is personal for me. This is not my role as a council member. This is how I see parents working the sidewalk in the West Side when I take my daughter to school, or in Washington Heights where I live, knowing that even the sidewalk is not safe enough because 1.5 million New Yorkers who own cars, they have to be more responsible when it comes to how they act, how they behave when they are behind the wheel. And the message is also for those 1,000 of drivers who come to the city from other parts. They should know that New York City is the one leading all the effort, all the initiative when it comes to saving life of pedestrians and cyclists. At the Committee of Transportation, I got to thank Speaker Melissa Margarito, my colleague, and the Mayor, because with their support, we have passed 19 new laws in the last 3 years that have made the life of pedestrians safer in our city. But now we have a lot of work to do. And as the Mayor has said, the administration have been having a great partner, identifying new sources of revenue to redesign danger intersection, passing law at the council. Today, I'm also calling on the private sector to do their part so that we can increase the number of educational awareness initiatives in the TV and the newspaper. The administration and the council is putting $5 million in that initiative. Now we also need the private sector to match that $5 million because it is the responsibility of every single New Yorker, so every single sector, to do their part to save the life of New Yorkers who are our pedestrians and our cyclists in our city. Finally, I'm also calling on Albany to do their part when they come to the hit and run. The DAs through the 5 boroughs, they are limited on how much they can prosecute those drivers who leave the scene when they hit someone, because Albany has not passed the necessary law that we need so that the DA can prosecute those irresponsible drivers. Very soon I'm going to be working with my colleague at the Council Administration, putting together a package of legislation of hit and run, because this is an epidemic. I know the administration had a goodwill. The NYPD is doing their job. DOT is redesigning endangered intersection, but there's a number of drivers that they leave in the scene when they hit someone. That's a crime. That's irresponsible, and Albany should provide the tool that we need so that DA should prosecute to the full of the extent those drivers. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Udonis. We'll take some questions on this topic now. Yep.
Mayor, you mentioned earlier about stepped-up enforcement during the holiday period. You mentioned checkpoints. Can you go into a little more detail on the checkpoints? What will officers be looking for, and where exactly will they be?
I'll turn to Commissioner and Chief Chan. I just want to say I am a strong believer in checkpoints. I think we've lost so many innocent people to drunk driving. And checkpoints send a powerful message that we will not tolerate drunk driving and that there will be consequences. And the Commissioner said there's so many things people can do rather than get behind the wheel when they're drunk. So we're going to make very, very clear to people that there will be consequences, and checkpoints are one of the strongest, most visible ways to do that.
So we'll increase our number of sobriety checkpoints. We have many different units that do this. We have the strategic response group, used to be the task forces. We have citywide traffic, and we also have at the precinct level. And I'm not going to tell you where we're going to have the checkpoints. Tom?
Commissioner, we just did a story about like several 100,000 people are evading the red light and the speeding cameras by putting plastic on their license plates. Are you aware of this, obviously, and what's being done to prevent that in the future?
I'm aware of it. I was aware of it before the story in the Daily News this morning. If there's a couple of things in the city of New York that really bother me, and this is one of them. So in the last 2 years, it'll be the end of December. We've written 42,000 summonses for this infraction, and we'll continue our enforcement.
And let me just add one thing to the point. If people do that, we are going to catch them and we're going to penalize them. I want that to be very, very clear. This is another area where we're going to deepen enforcement, and there will be more consequences. So if someone has one of those covers, I would advise them to get them off real quick because the NYPD is coming.
Do cops check for that at checkpoints? Like, are they told to do that?
Yes, they are, and when vehicles are moving, and we're going to make sure that we're not part of that offender list also. We check within all the precincts and all our different units to make sure none of our official cars have them and none of our private vehicles have them. And if they do, they'll be facing disciplinary action.
Very good.
Mr. Mayor, the number of traffic deaths is falling, but it's falling slowly. Do you fear you've set yourself up for failure by aiming for such an ambitious goal of 0 deaths by 2024?
We've all understood that Vision Zero was a radical goal, and for a good reason. We had to change behavior fundamentally. We had to fix the things we could fix. And I think one of the things that became clear as we started down this road was so much of the danger was addressable, and there were so many tools we had that weren't being used. We didn't have enough cameras around schools. We had a speed limit that was too high in many places. We didn't have enough NYPD enforcement. We didn't have the right traffic designs. So I think the power of the Vision Zero idea is it says, fix all the things you can. And I'll borrow a famous phrase, physician, heal thyself. Let's do all the things we can do to push that number down. The initial results are amazing. What's happened in just over 2 years is unbelievable numerically. And again, you've seen what this latest initiative was able to achieve in the last month. So I think it is right to set a very high goal. And as I said, we've only just gotten started. There's going to be a lot more where that came from.
Juliet?
Yes. Mr. Mayor, the Commissioner just gave an example of a distracted pedestrian crossing the street. Is there any kind of educational campaign, either for pedestrians or for bicyclists who are, going the wrong way on a bike lane or not adhering to traffic signs or traffic lights?
Absolutely. The bottom line here, first and foremost, cars are the challenge. Vehicles are the number one challenge because their size and their speed make them the single greatest danger. But bicyclists have to get the message. They need to follow traffic laws too. And we have had targeted enforcement of bicyclists, and we will continue to deepen that. This is, again, to hit on all cylinders, if you will, is going to be a constant deepening of enforcement. And bicyclists who violate traffic laws do a disservice to all other bicyclists, and they certainly can endanger people. So we will ticket them as well.